Welcome to the Answers for Elders radio show. Meet the trusted experts who will give you straight answers and will help guide you on the path of later life care. Now, here's your host, founder, caregiver, and CEO, Suzanne Newman.
And welcome back, everyone, to Answers for Elders Radio Network. And we are here with Lori Hudson, who is an independent agent on behalf of Humana, our major sponsor of the Vitality Revolution. And Lori and I are talking about forgiveness. And Lori, we have kind of gone through the gamut of what causes it, the physical manifestations of feeling angry. And then we talked a little bit about, how to recognize what's going on in our lives and how to get to that point of what's the issues with us. And I want to close out this segment a little bit about talking to you about coming together to finding healing. And what have been some of the ideas that you've had about creating a sense of healing between people?
Well, I think realizing that there's things that are outside of your control again, and kind of working on yourself of letting go of those things that you can't control. And I think that when you're holding that, and as I was saying earlier, I'll sit with a couple and I'll notice you can just feel the tension. It's both sides are feeling that way, and it has to start somewhere. And I think if we can recognize it in ourselves and make that first step, I think can be so difficult. Well, and I think
too, our communication has to be involved in this, because I think when we feel angry, we lash out, and that makes it worse. I think the best thing for us to do, like you talked about, getting quiet, getting in touch with ourselves. But I think the next step is to learn to heal, first of all, within yourself. And we can talk a little bit about that right after we mention this. But the most important thing, I think, is to communicate in a non-judgmental way. I know that there's all types of ways in which we talk about it on my website and in my show, but we talk a lot about coming to, this is what I want to achieve by this conversation. In other words, Lori, I've been having some feelings about our last gathering. And you know what? I don't want us to have this kind of energy between us, and I want to heal this. And I would love an opportunity to see if we can do that. Would you be willing to work with me to get through this? And I think with families, sometimes we tend to hurt those that we love the most. It just happens that way. And so finding a way to take a step back. I know that I do with my husband. Whenever I'm triggered, I've learned really a lot to just either, leave the room, walk away, get a hold of myself, and then realize what's my role in this. And I think that's the piece that it's not about blame or judgment. It's just about two people trying to find each other. And I think that's one of the things that you've talked about. Isn't that correct?
Yes, I agree with that completely. And I think sometimes if it's really, really difficult, if you've had something where, maybe you haven't talked to that family member in years, because there's this, you could write a letter.
Right.
Sometimes that is an icebreaker to start that communication. And maybe it's funny, when I was this is years ago, I had this boss who was he was so fantastic. And I was telling him about, I had this fight with one of my siblings, and he goes, well, give it a couple of years and then send him a Christmas card.
There you go.
How you start it is, give it some cooling off, and then just start it maybe with something really simple like that, is send him a Christmas card. You haven't talked in years, send him a card. Or write that letter, and that can clear the air, and it can sometimes just get you over that hump of being able to talk to that person. And sometimes there's just things that maybe you don't have to get into a bunch of detail about, you did this to me, No. It's just kind of letting go of those emotions is the main part of it.
Yeah. And I think too, what you're saying is, it's like, I right now have a family member that I've chosen to cut off contact with. But I have tried every time she comes up, and if it's a, you know, a little bit of a resentment feeling or whatever, I am conditioned myself to always stop and send her love. It's like, you know, it's important for me. And it doesn't mean that you still have that conversation, you know, that they're still in your life. They may not be that person, but the whole point is that you have an opportunity to heal from the experience by, you know, number one, realizing that, you know, we're all human beings and sometimes we're not going to gel with each other. And that's okay too.
It is okay. And sometimes the person maybe won't accept your forgiveness if it's to that point.
Yeah.
And that is when you're doing that for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You want to do it for the other person, but you're doing it for yourself.
So we just have about a minute and a half. And I think there's one more thing that I want to bring up. And you talked about the most important thing that we need to do is to forgive who? Ourselves.
Yeah. Because we make mistakes, you know, maybe holding on to something that we did to the other person is stopping us from making that first step. And I think it is so important to really take a look at that and forgive ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, I know a really good forgiveness coach.
Yeah.
If there's anyone out there, if you fill out a contact form on my website, I can put you in contact with her,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if it is something that people are interested in.
Yeah. And I think, you know, really, I think just realizing that if we feel a sense of anger, a lot of times we're angry at ourselves. We're angry about the situation. We may feel something like that. We need to learn to let go of that. Let go of whatever it is. And, you know, there's certain things you can do. Like, for example, I send to this family member of mine, you know, she and I cannot have a relationship and it's okay. But what I've learned is to just know that I'm peaceful within myself and I send her love. And that's been something that's been important to me. And for each and every one of you listening, I hope you'll get something out of our hour today. And Lori, thank you so much for being on the program today.
Oh, you are so welcome. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
And you can reach Lori at HudsonInsuranceSolutions.com and learn all about her wonderful program with Medicare. And we will talk to each one of you right after this.
Time to get back to Suzanne and more Answers for Elders.
I would like to thank again our friend Lori Hudson from HudsonInsuranceSolutions.com. And also, please, everyone, check out Answers for Elders and the Vitality Revolution. And until next week, be good to each other. We at Answers for Elders thank you for listening. Did you know that you can discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at AnswersForElders.com.